His Divine Grace Maharaj Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Krishna Maharaj Parivrajikacharya Astadharshita Shri Shivaya. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnavendra Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glorious to the Son of devotees, Hare Krishna. All glorious to the Son of devotees, Hare Krishna. All glorious to the Son of devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru, Shri Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. Let us welcome His Holiness Sri Krishna Chaitanya Swami Maharaj to Sri Radha Vrindavan Temple by chanting Hare Krishna Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Brief introduction of His Holiness Sri Krishna Chaitanya Swami Maharaj. So he began chanting Hare Krishna Mantra in 1997 at the age of 12. And at the age of 15, he got Bhagavad Gita written by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada as a gift from his sister. And in 1984, he accompanied a friend to the Botswana Hare Krishna temple and became a regular visitor. And in 1991, he joined ISKCON as a brahmachari in Ireland, Europe. 1992, during a meeting in Spain with his spiritual master, His Holiness Lokanath Swami Maharaj, he received instructions to go to India. He travelled with His Holiness Lokanath Swami Maharaj as his personal secretary for 12 years. His Holiness Loknath Swami Maharaj initiated him as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Swami Maharaj in the Holy Dham of Pandharpur. And in 2006, he was appointed as a secretary of ISKCON Kirtan Ministry. His service include coordinating ISKCON's annual International World Holy Name Festival. While taking up residence at ISKCON's Kolkata branch from 2013 to 2020, he facilitated the expansion of the ashram and built a recording studio. He is one of the founding members of Bhakti Vedanta band and performs at youth festivals throughout the world. He is a well-known presenter and has traveled extensively to USA, Canada, France, England, Germany, Poland, Switzerland, Italy, Croatia, Slovenia, Bulgaria, Spain, Belgium, Poland, Guyana, Mauritius, South Africa, Botswana, Russia, India, amongst other countries. At present, he is based in Pandharpur, Maharashtra, India. Along with many other projects, he is currently overseeing the construction of new recording studio on the ISKCON Pandharpur campus, Lok Studio, to facilitate live streaming audio and video productions for His Holiness Loknath Swami Maharaj and the ISKCON Kirtan Ministry. It's our good fortune to have him here in NVCC. Let us hear Srimad Bhagavatam from His Holiness Sri Krishna Chaitanya Swami Maharaj. Hare! Hare!
Thank you so much, Guru. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 19. Chapter is entitled The Island of Jamudwi. Text number 16, 17, 18, and 19. Is this correct? Can anyone verify? That's correct? Yes, thank you. These are prose verses, so I'll chant myself. Bharate yasmin varshe sarischala santi bhavo malayo mangala pasto manakastra kuta rishabha kutakaha kolakaha Sahayo Devagni Rishamuga Shri Sayo Venkato Mahendro Varidharo Vidyaha Shukatiman Vikaksha Giriham Pariyacho Jonash Chikakuto Govardhano Vaivakakaha Kukumo Nila Gomuka Indrakilaha Kamagiri iti chani chachata sahasra shaha shainas tesham nitamba prabhava nada nadyas chat santya sankyataha. Translation. In the tract of land known as Bharatavarsha, as in Ilata Varsha, there are many mountains and rivers. Some of the mountains are known as Malaya, Mangalaprastha, Mainaka, Chikuta, Vishaka, Kutaka, Kulaka, Saya, Devagiri, Vishabhuka, Sri Shaila, Venkata, Mahendra, Varidhara, Vinidya, Shuktiman, Vishakshakiri, Pariyaja, Drona, Chikuta, Govardhana, Raivataka, Kumkubata, Nila, Gomukha, Indrakila, and Kamagiri. Besides these, there are many other hills with many large and small rivers flowing from their slopes. Text numbers 17 and 18. Ekasham poparaja praja namapir eva punatina atmana chopasprishanti Chandravasa Tamraparvani Avatoda Kamamala Vaihayasi Kaveri Veni Payasvini Shankoni Vata Tungabhadra Krishna Venya Bimarati Godavari Nirvindya Payoshini Tapi Reva Surasa Naramada Charmanta Charmanvanti Sindur Anda Sonaschanado Mahandra Vedas Nitya Rishikuya Trisana Koshika Mandakini Yamuna Saraswati Dharmaswati Gomati Sayu Rudaswati Saptavati Shushma Shattajus Chandrabhaga Maruvridha Nitasta Asli Vishveti Mahanadaya. Two of the rivers, the Brahmaputra and the Shona, are called nadas, or main rivers. These are other great rivers that are very prominent. Chandravasa, Tamraparni, Avatoda, Kritamala, Vahayasi, Kaveri, Veni, Payasvini, Sharaka, Varta, Tunga, Bhadra, Krishna Venya, Bimarati, Godavari, Nirvindya, Payoshni, Tapi, Reva, Surasa, Narmada, Charmanvati, Mahanadi, Vedasmati, Vishakulya, Trimasa, Koshiki, Mandakini, Yamuna, Saraswati, Drastravati, Gomati, Sarayu, Rudasvati, Saptavati, Sushma, Shatraju, Chandrabhaga, Marudvridha, Nitasta, Asikni, and Vishva. The inhabitants of Bharatvarsh are purified because they always remember these rivers. Do you always remember these rivers? You should always remember these rivers. Sometimes they chant the names of these rivers as mantras, and sometimes they go directly to the rivers to touch them and bathe in them. Thus the inhabitants of Bharatvarsha become purified. Purport. By His Divine Grace, Srila Bhai Arvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Purport. All these rivers are transcendental. Therefore, one can be purified by remembering them, touching them, or bathing in them. This practice is still going on. Jai Shri Shri Arvind Chandra Shri Shri Gauranitai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. Text 19. Asmineva Varshe Purusha Lakta Janabhi Shukla Lohita Krishna Varnena Swabhadena Kama Vidyamasya Naraka Yatayo Bhavya Atmana Anupurvyena Sarva Diyeva Sarveksham Vidiyate Yathavarna Vidhana Aparvargash Chapi Bhavati. Okay, let's do word for word. Asmineva Varshe in this tract of land, Bharatavarsha, Purushai, by the people, Labdha Janma Bihi, who have taken birth, Shukla, in the mode of goodness, Logita, in the mode of passion, Krishna, of the mode of ignorance, Varnena, according to the division, Sva, by himself, Aramdena, began, Karmana, by activities, Divya, divine, Manusha, human, Naraka, hellish, Yatayaha, goals, Bhavyaha, many, Atmanaha, of his own, Anupurvyena, according to acts performed previously, Sarvaha, all, he, certainly, Eva, indeed, Sarvesham, of all of them, Vidiyate, are allotted, Yata Varna Vadinam Vidinam, Yata Varna Vidanam, in terms of different castes, Apavargaha, the path of liberation, Cha, and Api, also, Bhavati is possible. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhai China Arvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. The people who take birth in this tract of land are divided according to the qualities of material nature. The modes of goodness, sattva-gun, passion, rajagun, and ignorance, tamagun. Some of them are born as exalted personalities, and some are ordinary human beings. And some are extremely abominable, for in Bharatvarsh one takes birth exactly according to one's past karma. If one's position is ascertained by a bona fide spiritual master, and one is properly trained to engage in the service of Lord Vishnu, according to the four social divisions, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and the four spiritual divisions, Brahmachari, Grasta, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, one's life becomes perfect. Purport. For further information, one should refer to Bhagavad Gita 14:18 and 18:42-45. Srila Ramanujacharya writes in his book Vedanta Samgraha, Evam Veda Parabhakti Sarvapajanaha Vishesha Syutatpadakaha Purvokataharaha Upachiyamana Jnana Puraka Kamana Nugrihita Bhakti Yoga Eva Yatoktam Bhagavata Parashena Varnashrameti Nikila Jagat Udhaya Naya Yavanitale Patirnam Parabrahma Buddha Purushottamaha Swayam Ekat Uttamaha Svakarma Nirataksirim Yataganati Kachchanu Yata Pravitir Bhutanam Yena Sarvamidam Tatam Svakam Manatat Apyacha Siddhim Vidhati Manavaha. Quoting from Vishnu Purana 389, the great sage Parasha Muni has recommended Varnashramacharvata Purushena Paraman Vishnu Aradate Panta Namyatato Shakaranam The Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashram. There is no other way to satisfy the Lord. In the land of Bharatvarsha, the institution of Varnashram Dharma may be easily adopted. At the present moment, certain demoniac sections of the population of Bharatvarsha are disregarding the system of Varnashram Dharma. Because there is no institution to teach people how to become Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, or Brahmacharis, Grihastas, Vanaprasthas, and Sannyasis. These demons want a classless society. This is resulting in chaotic conditions. In the name of secular government, unqualified people are taking the supreme governmental posts. No one is being trained to act according to the principles of Varnashram Dharma, and thus people are becoming increasingly degraded and are heading in the direction of animal life. The real aim of life is liberation, but unfortunately, the opportunity for liberation is being denied to people in general, and therefore their human lives are being spoiled. The Krishna consciousness movement, however, is being propagated all over the world to re-establish the Varnashram Dharma system and thus save human society from gliding down to hellish life. Om Jnana Janandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Vishram Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Pradayam Pradati Svapadantikam Vanchekalpajunischa Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivasani Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So I'm very happy to be here in Sri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Mandir. Long time I have not visited. I'm so happy to see the bright, shining, smiling faces of all the wonderful devotees that are here today. So nice to have your darshan. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Before I begin to speak, I ask all of your blessings that I can speak from my own purification of the heart. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So it's quite a broad topic that we're covering today. These several very deep verses. And we're hearing in this section of Bhagavatam, the island of Jambudvip, Canto 5, Chapter 19. It began, of course, with the glorification of Lord Ramachandra. Hanumanji and the other monkeys, they're glorifying Lord Ramachandra. And I guess you were in this mood of Lord Ram, because yesterday we celebrated Ram Navami Mahamahotsav. So I trust you had a wonderful festival here. By Srila Prabhupada's mercy, this wonderful festival of Ram Navami is being celebrated all over the world very wonderfully. Yesterday I was in Sri Radhakunja Bihari Mandir for the morning, and then I went to ISKCON Harapsar for the afternoon, and there was a nice festival there also. And then in the evening again at Sri Radhakunja Bihari Mandir, and we must have had 2,000 or 3,000 people minimum. It was quite a good turnout, and Ajki Ananda, or Konte Ananda, right? It was a great, wonderful festival. So now I saw on your YouTube channel you had Bhakti Brihad Bhagavatam Rit Maharaj here. So you're very fortunate, and speaking after him, it's like a firefly trying to come in contact with a forest fire. You know, it's amazing. But with your mercy, I'll try to speak something. After this section of Hanumanji and the monkeys glorifying Lord Ram, we come to a section of Narada Muni explaining about this Bharatvarsh planet. And Bharatvarsh planet is very interesting. It's interesting to hear Narada Muni's perspective, because we're all living here in Bharatvarsh. So it's interesting from another person's perspective to hear what living here in Bharatvarsh is like. And one thing is that there's great opportunities for purification here. There are so many facilities to become purified living in Bharatvarsh. One of these wonderful facilities is the holy rivers of Bharatvarsh. There are so many. And Narada Muni speaks about just by hearing about them, by chanting their names, by touching them, by bathing in them, we can become purified. So it's very, very, very wonderful opportunity. I know that I've been staying in Sri Pandharpur Dham for the past 2 years. And there we have the Chandrabhaga River, which is also mentioned here in Bhagavatam. It's wonderful to be staying in a place mentioned in Bhagavatam. It's also mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, because Mahaprabhu stayed there for 11 days. And Vishwarup left his body there, and Lord Nityananda took Diksha there, took initiation. So wonderful. So many places like this in Bharatvarsh, Mayapur, and Haridwar, and I'm sure even in Pune, so many wonderful opportunities are here for purification. Of course, in Pune, the greatest opportunity for purification is the river of Sadhu Sangha. And there's a river of devotees constantly flowing through here, and they're washing away the sins of all the residents of Pune. Anyone who touches them, or chants their names, or bathes in that river, they become purified. And I feel like I'm bathing in that river right now. So this is my good fortune. So these rivers give us a great opportunity for purification. And Srila Prabhupada, he writes in one purport in Srimad Bhagavatam that I created these centers in Mayapur and Vrindavan just to give the devotees an opportunity to bathe in the Ganga and the Jamuna. And they should take advantage of this opportunity and bathe 3 times per day. Prabhupada writes that in the purport. So it's very powerful, these holy rivers. I remember in Pandharpur in the past, many years ago, I was also staying there, and I had a part of my sadhana 3 times a day, taking bath in Chandrabhaga. After the morning class, before breakfast, and lunchtime, noon duties at noon, and in the evening as the sun is setting. But it's very, very blissful. So when we go to Mayapur especially, Ganga is there and easy access. Vrindavan, the Ganga is the Jamuna is a little further. Maybe 1 hour you have to walk sometimes. Gurukul is going every day in Vrindavan. Or they were, now they shifted. But it takes about 1 hour. So this is a great opportunity for advancement in spiritual life. And Prabhupada mentions in the next verse, in the purport, the next verse is about Varnashram. Varnashram is also a great opportunity for purification. Chaturvanyamaya shrishtam guna karma vibhagashaha tasya kartram apimam vidyakartram avyayam. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, text 13. Chaturvanyamaya shrishtam. There are 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. The 4 varnas are the Brahmana, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, the Kshudra, and the 4 ashrams are the Brahmachari, the Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. And these are determined by guna and karma, by the quality and by the work, not by janma, not by birth. Sometimes people have the misconception that one can only be a Brahmana by birth. But it is not by birth that one is a Brahmana. Even a rickshaw wala can have a 2 paisa thread and say, oh, I'm a Brahmana. But he's not doing the activities of a Brahmana. He's just cycling the rickshaw. The qualities of a Brahmana, Shamodama Stapa Shocham Shantir Arjavam Evacha. Jnana Vijnanam Astikyam Brahma Karma Svabhavajam. That he's very clean and he's very peaceful, he's very disciplined, he's religious, he has knowledge, he has realization. These are the qualities by which the Brahmanas work, not just riding a rickshaw. One should have knowledge and realization. And then the qualities of Kshatriya are also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. 1842, 43, 44, 45. The different qualities in the Varnashram system are mentioned. Shuryam Tejo Jutir Daksham Yudhe Chapya Palayanam Dhanam Ishvaram Bhavascha Kshatram Karma Svabhavajam. These are the qualities by which the Kshatriyas work. Shuryam, they're very powerful. Dritir, they're determined. Daksham, expert. Yudhe Chapya Palayanam, in the yud, in the fight. They're not in the back, they're in the front. Dhanam, they're very charitable. Ishwaram Bhavascha, they like to control the situation. They have the capacity to control. Ishwaram Bhavam Cha. Kshatram Karma Subhavajam. These are the qualities of the Kshatriya. And then Krishigo Rakshavani Jam, the qualities of the Vaishya, they're Krishigo Rakshavani Jam. They take care of the cows and they do the banking and the different financial activities. And then we have the qualities of the Shudra. Those are just assisting the other three ashrams. So I'm most familiar with that system. So I'm attempting to assist all of you. That is my nature. So these are great opportunities to become purified. But of course, if we follow the Varnashram system, but we don't become more absorbed in Krishna consciousness, then it's just a useless waste of time. Dharma samustitaha pumsam viksrakshena katasuyaha notpariya idiratim shrama evi kevalam. That if one engages in the Varnashram system, but one does not become purified, then, and does not remember Krishna, then shrama evi kevalam. It's just a useless waste of time. So I wanted to share one pastime that I read just a couple of days ago in this book called Bhuvaikuntha about Sri Pandharpur Dham. So many of us have heard the story of Pundalik and how Krishna came to visit him. But I read something from Skanda Purana is mentioned that gives information on the background, what leads up to Krishna visiting Pundalik in Pandharpur. Would you like to hear? Jai Ho, Jai Ho. So it's mentioned that first there was a demon, Muchukunda, and he was sleeping in the cave. And Kalyavana, he was fighting with Krishna, and he had the benediction he couldn't be killed. So Krishna was thinking, how can I kill this demon? So Muchukunda, he had a benediction from the demigods that whoever wakes him up while he's sleeping, he burns them to ashes. Okay, don't wake him up. Right? Hope there's no new bhaktas in the ashram with this benediction. So Muchukunda is sleeping in the cave, and Krishna runs in quietly, not to wake him up, and wraps a scarf around his face so he can't see. And then Krishna, very quietly, he hides in the cave. So Kalyavana is looking for Krishna. Krishna, where are you? I'll kill you. He comes in the cave, and Muchukunda wakes up. And Muchukunda wakes up and sees him, opens his eyes, and burns him to ashes. Katamori is finished. So there was a benediction involved that Muchukunda said to Krishna, then Krishna was there, he spoke with Muchukunda, because Kalyavana was dead, he was finished. So Muchukunda wanted a benediction, that just as you are before me now, just as you are giving me your darshan now, let me have your darshan, continuously. I want you to be here before me.
So Krishna gave him the benediction that in his next life, he would have the benediction to have Krishna before him again. And in his next life, Muchakunda took birth as Pundalik. Yeah, Skandapura. So Pundalik, he took birth in Maharashtra, only about 3.5 hours from here. Before it was 4 hours, now 3.5, because the Solapur road is now like almost like LA. It's like fast, you know. It's amazing. That's like, am I in India? You know, it's like a good road. It's like good road, India. It doesn't really go together, but we have a good road in India. So 3.5 hours to Pandharpur. So Pundalik, he took birth in Pandharpur. And his mother and father were very pious brahmanas, very nice devotees of the Lord. But for some reason, Pundalik was very mischievous, nutcut. He was like, he had like not a pious nature. He was always making mischief and trouble. And he was always very rude to his parents. And his mother and father were thinking, why we have this sinful child? You know, something from previous karma, something happened. So then, the mother and father, they decide, we're going to go to Kashi on pilgrimage. And Pundalik, would you like to come with us? No, I'm not going anywhere with you. You go alone. He was very rude. So they went, but somehow he got inspired. Many pilgrims were going to Kashi. So he said, okay, I'll also go to Kashi. So he had his wife with him, and together, Pundalik and his wife, they started traveling to Kashi. Now on the way he came to an ashram. It was the ashram of a very saintly person named Kukuta. So this saintly rishi, the sage Kukuta, had a nice ashram there. And he called out to Kukuta, how do I get to Kashi? And Kukuta came out and he said, my dear sir, I have never been to Kashi. And then Pundalik started abusing him, and he was very rude. And this Kukuta Maharaj was very shanti, very peaceful. He just went back inside his ashram peacefully. So then Pundalik was intrigued. He also went to the ashram, went inside. And he saw 3 very deformed women carrying water pots on their head. They were very ugly, they were very dirty, and they went inside and they started cleaning the ashram. And after some time, he saw their countenances became bright and beautiful, and they were clean and cleansed, and they were shining like the sun. And Pundalik said, who are you? And they said, we are the personified rivers of Ganga, Jamuna, and Saraswati. And when people come and bathe in us, they leave their sins in us, and thus we become very dirty. But when we come here to the ashram of the great devotee Kukuta Maharaj, then by doing that Vaishnav Seva, then we become cleansed and refreshed. So having the darshan of these personified rivers and having the association of Kukuta Maharaj, Pundalik's heart became cleansed. He became transformed. He became a new person. He became devotional. And they instructed him, go back to your parents and serve them nicely. So then Pundalik went back to Pandharpur, where his parents were residing, and began serving his parents very nicely. So one day he was massaging the lotus feet of his mother and father, and there was a knock at the door. And I think you all know the story from here, most of you. And it was Krishna. Krishna had come to Maharashtra because Rukmini had left Krishna in Dwarka, and she's from Maharashtra. So he was looking how to find her. So as long as I'm here, let me go visit Pundalik. So he went, and Pundalik said, I'm doing Vaishnav Seva for my parents now. Please you wait here. And he gave him a brick. Gave him a brick to stand on. Stand on this brick. So then Krishna said, okay, and he was standing on the brick like this, with his hands on his hips, because this is how you stand when you're waiting for someone. So he's waiting and waiting and waiting. Now the little purport here is that Pundalik's parents are devotees. It's not that we just make Krishna wait and we serve any parents. Best as we serve the devotee parents. So after some time, Pundalik finished his seva and he went to meet Krishna and he appealed to Krishna, please you stay here with me. Because Pundalik was Muchukunda in his previous birth. And Krishna agreed to stay with him, and thus he took the form of Lord Vittala. And if you come to Pandharpur, you can have darshan of Lord Vittala. This is Swami Krishna. And Tukaram Maharaj, the great saint of Maharashtra, which is mentioned also by Prabhupada in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he prays that anyone who says that this deity of Vittala is carved, may his mouth become filled with worms. Okay, so don't say that. So it's Swayam Bhu Morti, just Krishna himself appeared. So like this we can understand that the holy rivers, they purify us. And the rivers are purified by the devotees. So tomorrow's verse, Narada Muni will speak about how the Vaishnavas, how the devotees purify us. And even Prabhupada concludes the purport today by speaking about how the spiritual master can transform the heart of the disciple and enable us to become purified. Just as an expert alchemist can turn bell metal into gold, similarly, the expert spiritual master can transform an ordinary human being into a Vaishnava devotee. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments? Maybe I can take one. Yes, Guru. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for nice pastimes. So I just want to ask one question. So although Muchukunda was a very elevated devotee, what was the reason why he, in the earlier stage of his life, he became very rude to his parents?
Why did Muchukunda become rude to his parents in the early stages of his life, as Pundalik in his next birth? It's mentioned in the book that I was reading, and due to previous sinful reaction. So one can be an elevated Vaishnava and still have some residual sinful reactions remaining. Like Prabhupada mentions in this purport to the shloka Tate Nukampam Susalikshamano. He mentions that the devotees may have some trace of material enjoyment still present that needs to be purified. So that is due to previous sinful karmas. One's karma may not be completely eradicated. So due to this previous karmas, Muchukunda had this tendency. And then also from another perspective, we can see it perhaps from a Leela perspective. That because Krishna is involved, it's Krishna's Leela. Krishna wants to glorify the three personified rivers to purify Pundalik. Krishna wants to glorify the devotee, Kukuta Maharaj, to purify Pundalik. So thus to exhibit the potency of his devotees to purify others, Krishna made an arrangement that Pundalik would have still have some sinful residual reactions within him. So these two perspectives are there. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Or kuch chahiye? Yes. Sundarsham Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Oh, I am purified by the darshan of all Vaishnavas. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, my question is, you quoted the characteristics of Kshatriya, Ishwaram Bhavam. He has the ability, or he likes to control. So now, running an organization like ISKCON, we need some devotees like that, who are going to lead many other general masses. But on the other side, we also say that Karataham iti manyate, Ahankara vimudapna. So then this side people keep blaming the leaders. He thinks he did this and that, but they are also required. So could you please throw light as to how to synthesize or how to have harmony in a devotee community while being in an organization practicing spiritual life personally?
Thank you for your kind question. Let me see if I understand your question properly. You're asking how to reconcile that on one hand we need Kshatriyas who have that capacity to control and lead, and on the other hand, in spiritual life we often say that we should not try to control the situation because Krishna is the doer. Kartahamiti manite. We should not think, I am the doer. Is that correct? Yeah.
How to have harmony in these two classes because one will be leader, some will be leaders, some will be subordinates. So they keep blaming each other sometimes. So how to have harmonious and proper vision towards each other?
Yeah, I think your question may be how to have the proper vision so that the two will not blame each other. How to have cooperation and a peaceful modus operandi, so to speak. So we should, like the bumblebee and the fly, right? We should, the madhumaki, the bumblebee will see the good qualities in others. And even if the bumblebee is in one very dirty place, if there's like stool everywhere, but there's one flower, the bumblebee will go right for the flower, right? But the mucky, the fly, will just, even in the most beautiful garden, if there's one piece of stool amongst all the flowers, go right for the stool. So as devotees, we should try to cultivate this vision and see the good, see the service that devotees are offered. We should not say, oh, he's ahankara. We could say, oh, he's trying to serve Krishna and he's using his nature. So I would suggest this, try to cultivate this vision. The vision of the madhumaki, the vision of the bee, and not of the fly. See the good that devotees are doing. Don't see the bad. What do you think? Thank you so much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Lord Premanande.